Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought we would talk about the Fox. This is a little armoured car that has come in to the British tech tree in the last major update. I was actually able to spade it out yesterday on the day of the update, which was actually really fun. And the vehicle is what I class as a vehicle of two halves. And this is something that happens a lot with vehicles which rely heavily on specific modifications, and the Fox is no different. When you start playing the Fox, you get access to two rounds, an AP round and a HE round. They are in their separate belts, so you have an AP-HE belt and you have a HEIT belt. So it's good to take both of these belts because you do have quite a lot of ammo with the Fox, and also the HE is better against planes, whereas of course the AP is better against ground vehicles. Now, the problem with the APHE, or the SAPI as it's known, is it only pens 50mm at most. And that's if you're right next to a target, and also at the same time, you are in, spitting distance. And also at the same time, because of the fire rate of the Rarden gun, the 30mm, and also if you don't have the adjustment of fire mod, this gun is incredibly inaccurate. So basically, you have something which doesn't pen the vast majority of things that you face, and also at the same time, it isn't accurate enough to be able to destroy it either. To give you a context, I was a few hundred meters away from an IKV-91, and I wasn't able to pen it anywhere on the vehicle with this round, because of the inaccuracy of the gun, and also because of the fact that I had AP. So, basically, until you get the APDS on this vehicle, you are useless against 90-95% of the stuff that you fight in this thing. Because at 7.0, it's a heavy tank meta. So you have the 6.7 American heavies, the 6.7 German heavies, the 7.3, 7.7, 7.0 heavies from America and the USSR, and you face them all because you are in the British tech tree. So basically, the vast majority of the time that you don't have APDS, you can't hurt those vehicles at all. You just cannot pen them. So it's infuriating because you just become a cameraman. You sit around the place and, you scout things, and that's pretty much all you do. The vehicle itself, when it comes to its mobility, is actually really good, even without any of the upgrades. I would say the brake system is a good idea, though, surprisingly, on this vehicle, because it does tend to slide all over the place. But stuff like tires, filters, transmission, engine, they're not actually massively required on the vehicle. Even stock, this thing is pretty mobile, and more mobile than most things that you'll face. But once you get that APDS, and once you get the targeting stuff for the gun, elevation mechanism, horizontal adjustment of fire, obviously focus on the mobility stuff alongside the artillery and the smoke grenade. Because even with the APDS, which pens just over 100 at 110mm, you will still have a lot of situations where you won't be able to penetrate anything. This vehicle, once you get the APDS, becomes a flanker, meaning that it's very map specific, because a lot of maps now they've actually destroyed the flanking routes, which kind of suck. But if you are a person who likes trying to go slightly different areas than usual, use the scouting effectively of the Fox, it can actually work very well. And I've also been able to destroy quite a few heavy tanks from the perpendicular. Now, I can't stress this enough. This APDS is a lot better than the previous one. The post-pen damage, surprisingly, is better than a lot of other rounds, like the 76mm. No idea why, it just is. So, against stuff like bulldogs or lighter targets, you can actually do a ton of damage to them pretty easily. Now, the other side of this is heavy tanks, which you'll face quite a lot. When it comes to dealing with these heavy tanks, whether they be T-34s, T-30s, M6A2E1s, M103s, King Tigers, maybe not a mouse, because you can't do anything against a mouse, or stuff like, the IS-3 or the IS-2, what you have to do with this vehicle is you have to get perpendicular to it, meaning that the enemy has to be at a proper 90 degrees away from you. So you are firing at a flat angle to the enemy. Now, you can pen the side of a turret of a Tiger 2 or the side of a hull of a Tiger 2 at that range and take it out. Same with like an IS-2 and same with other stuff. So what you do is when you have a heavy tank, which you're trying to deal with, You aim for the driver, so then they stay perpendicular to you, and then you aim for the turret to take it out. Your fire rate isn't great in this thing, but it will do the job, which is quite nice. So that's basically the general playstyle of dealing with heavies. You cannot take them head on, you cannot pen them in the front, and you will just have to go around the side, hope your teammates kind of eat shots, and then go from there. That's with the APDS. Without the APDS, you are completely worthless against all of those vehicles, which just kind of sucks. The smoke grenades actually helped me out quite a lot with this thing, because of the fact that you will have to reposition a lot, since you will get in situations where you can't really do anything against enemies, so using smoke and then getting out of there helps tremendously. It has a really good reverse on it as well, not just a forward acceleration, has a good acceleration backwards, which is really fun as well, which helps it out, so overall that stuff is good. And the general grind after I got past the APDS, like getting to that 30% of all mods researched was really tough. It felt awful, and the vehicle actually became frustrating. But after getting the APDS, after getting the mobility, it actually felt really good. And then it was just more map dependent whether the map fit this type of vehicle or not. Because obviously, in order to make it work, you need some flanking routes, you need, some areas where you can go in different places. Unfortunately, yesterday, I ended up on North Holland quite a lot, which is basically just 2 streets to be able to fight over, so the Fox isn't really that useful on a map like that. But this one, people will do well with, because it has the mobility to get to strong areas quickly, but it does rely on the enemy team not really paying attention of what's going on, because, you can just take it out so easily. It is also not immune to 50 cals, but it's able to actually defend itself against 50 cals compared to a lot of other light tanks, which is huge in the game. It's actually really nice to see, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. The other thing to also mention is the commander sight. So this is kind of an odd one, but it's one of those that you need to kind of have a think about when you're using this vehicle. So when you use binoculars on this vehicle, which will be your main mode to scout stuff, usually on a light tank, the binoculars on the vehicle are a little bit higher than the vehicle itself, or it basically means that it's not very close to the gunner sight, right? On this one, the view that you use for binos is basically right on top of your turret. So if you cannot just look over a hill, and you are, let's say, over a hill by a little bit more than that, your turret will be exposed, so they can see you. And that is huge when it comes to this type of vehicle, because obviously you need to be as stealthy as possible. So just remember that, just take that into account when using this thing, because it will happen quite a lot, where you will think that you're in cover because you'll be used to using other light tanks, but in this thing, you won't be in cover. It will actually be, it will actually be the top of the turret being seen. So make sure to do that, and everything will be good. The lineup around it is pretty awful. The Conway, which it's fine, but it has a pretty unreliable gun a lot of the time. And then the Centurion Mark V Avery, if you have it, because it's a premium, and I don't even think you can buy it anymore. So apart from that, you don't really have a lot going on for you, apart from the 6.7s, which are okay, but not great. The Attacker FB1 is a fun vehicle, since it has the 20mm Spanos, and also the 2 1,000 pounders, and the Strike Master as well, if you have it, is quite a nice backup as well, if you have air superiority. But the lineup is nothing compared to what other major nations have, and that is where, the issues come in. Surprisingly, if this thing was a higher BR, it might actually be better off, because it would go up against lighter targets, which are more mobile, which is probably this thing's bread and butter. But who knows? Right now, it's in a weird place, because it's so reliant on its modifications. But when it gets those modifications, it can be incredibly fun. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Just as a side note, they gave this thing the same engine as the Weasel and all of the other little race cars, so if you want to actually scout with it and be silent, you can't, because people hear you from miles away. So just be careful of that when you're flying around in this thing. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sam Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.